Okay, so I think we're ready to start. So let me just make sure that I have the presentation here. Okay, good, perfect. So, welcome everyone for today's affiliate call, and thanks for taking your time to join us in the conversation. We have three members today: AFEX, InWhatLanguage, and Gazelle. Being Gazelle, the new one to the affiliate members club. So the idea is for all of us to learn more about what the companies do and how we can help them with introductions, with referrals, and in order for them to grow and expand globally. So our first speaker today is Mike Sankowski. Mike, are you in the line?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. So Mike,
Great.
I'm gonna put your slides on, and they're okay. They're on. So you're good to start now.
Okay. Okay, fantastic. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, my name is Mike Sankowski. I am a senior business development executive here for Associated Foreign Exchange, AFEX. What AFEX does is we do foreign exchange payments and currency payments and risk management around those payments globally. We have offices here in the U.S., but we also have offices in about 15 countries around the world, including London and Sydney, Australia. And so we cover all the different time zones here pretty effectively with foreign exchange payments. We primarily work with importers and exporters in those countries when they need to make payments or receive payments in different currencies. And so the home currency here in the United States, of course, US dollar. We work with a lot of importers that are importing product from overseas and then need to pay in other currencies like euro, Canadian dollar, Japanese yen. So from a standpoint of who we are a global payments provider and partner. So yeah, you can move on to the next slide right there. And from an overview point of view, we're just going to talk today really briefly about what we do, including some of the products and services that we offer. We'll talk in a little bit more detail about the different target clients and then the partnerships that we look for. And then we'll go into some of the questions here. I mean, I know this is going to be pretty quick, but I think you've got a pretty good overview of what we do, the products and services that we offer. So we can move on to the next slide right there. So from a kind of a big picture standpoint, what do we do? We have three core business services. The first part of it is we exchange one currency for another currency, and we do this at better rates than you'll get at a bank or with most of your banking partners. And so whenever you exchange a currency, you're going to pay some sort of exchange rate that's a little bit worse than the spot rate you see on Bloomberg or CNBC. We try to keep those as fair as possible for our clients. If you do these exchanges through a bank, it'll be a lot more expensive for you. And then the second core business service, we deliver and receive payments in currencies around the world. In all the different world currencies, we can send payments. We can receive payments in all of the major currencies, really about 60 currencies around the world we can receive payments as well. So we can send out euros, British pounds, Japanese yen, Brazilian real. We can send out almost every currency in the world, and we can receive 65 currencies, I think it is right now. And then a big part of that, though, too, is that we manage currency risk through our risk management products. And so I'm sure you're aware that the currency markets, they move on a daily basis. And of course, over a month or over a year, there can be substantial differences in prices. We offer a full suite of risk management products to help companies budget for their upcoming year, to make sure that their products that they're importing, they know what they're going to pay, not just today, but 6 months from today when that product actually is delivered. So all of our products and services that we do are related to these three core business services. And a very simple example would be to exchange US dollars to euro and then send those euro payments over to Germany. So this is something I just spoke with a client today about. They import machines from Germany. What we do for them, we exchange US dollars into euro and then send those payments to their parent company over in Germany. That's what we do. Next slide, please. In terms of the product and service suite, it's pretty straightforward. We do the exchanges and payments. We do risk management, consulting, and execution. We receive and send foreign currencies. And then, something else that we offer is we alter multi-currency accounts and holding accounts and risk management products. So those three things right there are what really differentiate us from a standard provider. From a payment standpoint, we are definitely very aggressive on price, but from a service standpoint, we offer things that other people simply don't. And so we differentiate ourselves on price, certainly. We also offer a suite of products that they're not going to get at their local bank, certainly, and certainly even at the major banks like the Banks of America, they may not get access to these types of products. So we have a very simple online platform that people can use, but also we have a full suite of API integration. So for very large corporate clients, we can do high volume payments if we need to. We can do call-in payments where people call us in and we'll pick up the phone and do it for you. But we have a very customizable and customized customer service that operates and is tailored for the client. So, whatever level of service you need someone to hold your hand for every step of the way, we can be there. If you're a high volume corporate treasurer and you need, 30,000 payments a month, we can handle that too. So, next slide, please. This is our target industries, and so anyone that deals with these types of industries, we can certainly work with. We do a lot of work in the SME market, somewhere between $10 million in revenue all the way up to maybe $500 million in revenue is our sweet spot. I would say that our target company is someone with between 25 and 50 million in total sales, and they're doing $15 million in foreign exchange back to their parent company. And so some of the markets that we work with are machinery and tool, technology companies, web-based businesses. We do a lot of work with payroll companies and HR companies as well. We do a lot of import products like foods and consumer goods. And kind of as part of that import products, we work with a lot of kind of high-end yacht, boats, real estate, and kind of these imported cars, things that are more high value in nature too. We do a lot of work with private equity companies on their M&A activity. So they'll do a cross-border transaction where they purchase a company. That can be some of our bigger risk management clients. But as you can see from this list here, we do basically there's foreign exchange in almost every industry, and we're all here part of the global chamber. And so I'd imagine that some of you guys have are run across people like this pretty frequently. So next slide. How am I doing on time here?
You probably should be wrapping up very soon, but I think you can continue with the next slide.
Okay. Yeah, I think I talked about this already, where we're at in terms of revenue. We definitely, in general, they would tend to be importers rather than exporters, or people that have subsidiaries either overseas or they are a subsidiary somewhat overseas. The API clients are going to be, the enterprise clients are large numbers of payments. And in terms of partnerships, this is something that we want to talk about. We definitely work with partners who refer business. And, even importantly, we definitely pay people. If they have someone that they think that can work out, we can talk about it. And we definitely set up formal partnership agreements with people to make sure they get paid. So me right here, I'm Mike Sankowski, chartered financial analyst, charter holder, and a charter alternative investment charter holder as well. I used to be a professional trader in Chicago, and also over in London. And I've done a lot of different roles within the foreign exchange world. I was an analyst. I've been a professional trader, and I did a lot of product design on the structured products desk. So I'm also a Chicago guy, so I deal with a lot of machinery guys pretty well, but I also do a lot of work with yachting and high net worth individuals. So great. Any questions?
Perfect. Thank you, Mike. We have a couple of questions coming in the chat box. And the first one saying that, how do you handle payments and receipts? Is that through a portal or is that through a bank? How does AFEX do it?
Sure. We have an online platform that you can make payments from. in terms of receiving and sending payments, it's going to show up for most transactions just like you would for a bank. So if you're going to you need to receive some foreign funds, you'd send your clients basically the routing and banking information just as similar as though you'd send the wire instructions to them to get it wired to your own account, and then it would be wired into your AFEX account where you'd have access to the funds there. And it's the same way that you set up a client or beneficiary for your own normal bank account. The same way you give us the IBAN number. We set it up in the system, verify it's a valid IBAN number, make sure it's the correct IBAN number for that, and then we send off the payment on your instructions.
Okay, and how about e-commerce? Is there any special way you work with e-commerce platforms?
Oh yeah, definitely. We I would say most of our e-commerce platforms we run through an API system, and so I mean we have, I don't know, I think it's 15 now. We definitely have a presence with kind of the startup community out in Silicon Valley and down in Austin around this, and so we partner with a lot of e-commerce payments platforms as their back end. So some of even the more famous ones that you might see, a lot of times their FX part of their business is going to go through us. So like you might be making a payment through some other platform, you'll see them as the provider, but really they're using our infrastructure and our rails to power their system. So yeah, we work with a lot of e-commerce companies on this.
Okay, thanks. And there are a couple more questions. I'm gonna ask one last question for you because we need to move forward. But then I can send you the rest, and you can provide some answers to that.
Oh, good. Okay, great. Thanks.
In terms of targets, is there any preference in terms of importers versus exporters when it comes to targets for AFEX?
We usually target the importers a bit more here in the United States, and that's the only reason for that is because the exporters tend to sell in U.S. dollars overseas unless they have presence on the ground internationally. So many exporters, they won't really have a big presence overseas. What they'll have is maybe a few distributors, and they tend to sell to those distributors in U.S. dollars. And so usually it's the importers that we deal with. Here, that said, though, I mean, if you have an exporter and they have a location with 5 people over in Germany or in Italy or in France, they're probably selling in euro over there as well. So there would be probably a substantial need for currency transactions. So I mean, it just depends. It's situationally dependent. Sorry, I couldn't be more clear there. Sorry about that.
No, that's
yeah.
fine.
If you could. Yeah, if you send those questions to me, I'd be glad to respond in a bit more detail via email as well.
Okay, sure. They're here in the chat box, but I think you're joining you're dialing in. So, but anyways, I'm gonna email them to you for sure.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks for your time today.
Thank you, Cesar.
Okay, so moving on, we're going to have Dave Hansen from InWhatLanguage. Dave, I think you're muted. Let's see.
There we go, guys. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, go ahead and fire up the slides. So today we'll walk through kind of the framework of who we are, what we do, how we do it, who we target, and I thought it'd be nice to rather than just talk about it, actually show you a little bit, give you some advice of the ways that we do things. But in a nutshell, you can stay on this first slide for a minute, Cesar. We're a content globalization expert, and we help any type of client from a large global enterprise like Marriott, Hilton, Disney, folks like that, to a sweet spot for us is the emerging enterprise, the small to medium growing business that's trying to expand globally and to capture additional market share in different regions. And we do this in a number of ways. We have our own proprietary technology. We called Unify, the translation management cloud. I think we're one of maybe 5 companies in the world that have a platform that can function like this. And it facilitates the translation process from end to end, and it's totally encrypted. So even specialty and regulated industries tend to partner with us because we have a very unique translation approach. But we also provide content globalization training and guidance and consulting. And if any of you are going to be in Vegas next week for DevLearn, come by and meet us, because we'll actually be giving away a full consulting engagement to help a company build a content globalization strategy. So, but let's go ahead, if you don't mind, Cesar, let's go ahead and progress through. The big question is why, right? Like, why do people in your network, why do your colleagues, why do they care? You can just progress through some of these images because they're really comical, but as people are going into foreign markets, communication is crucial. You don't want to be the next company that has the finger licking good error that Kentucky Fried Chicken had, or the Nova from Chevy, which means doesn't work, it doesn't go. Go ahead and move through these if you don't mind, Cesar. You can go ahead and progress all the way through them. There are a couple more. But the point is if you don't have the right global strategy and technology and partnership in place, as you try to go global, you can stay here for a second, then you'll fail when you go into the market. And then you get a false negative, and a lot of people stop expanding or trying to go global when they have one bad experience. But in the end, they might have just they might have not done it properly. So this is an area we focus a lot of effort on. Our global headquarters are in Salt Lake City in Utah. We have linguists and staff members that are all over the world. So we translate into over 200 languages, pretty much any language you need, even things like Chaluba and Mai. I mean, we do pretty rare languages as those continue to grow for refugee support around the globe. But key things that we focus on are helping clients develop a content globalization strategy and how to plan that in content development, creation, and localization itself, or centralization. Go ahead to the next slide, Cesar, if you don't mind. And the next one. I thought it'd be nice to show you some examples. Just go ahead and click through these slowly, Cesar. Just keep clicking, because as we work with clients, or as you have colleagues, or you yourselves are trying to expand globally, there are certain things that in the content creation or planning phase that need to be addressed. Go ahead and click all the way through this and go on to the next slide, Cesar, if you don't mind. Even things like color, as people are trying to expand globally, they have no idea that in the Middle East, the North African band, you try to stay away from the color red, because it's not a good color to use. Or in Latin America, there are certain color combinations you avoid. Go to the next one, Cesar. So these are some of the things, right here. As you're globally expanding, and I want to be sensitive to this point, because as a Caucasian American, it might sound wrong, but when you're a domestic multinational trying to expand into that, see that orange-red band across the Northern Africa, Middle East, and into India, only 15% or so of the workforce is female. So the messaging, the images we use in brochures and marketing campaigns have to be different. So we provide cultural training as well. Keep moving, Cesar, if you don't mind. These are just some tips and tricks, but text, let's go ahead and skip this one. Text elongates as you translate. So we help companies understand how to internationalize software, because go ahead and click on this one. If you don't, then you don't plan properly for white space. Some text will expand 35% going into German. Some will shrink 35% going into Chinese. So as you can imagine, as you're building UI software, you'll run into a lot of trouble if you don't do it right. Go ahead and skip to the last slide, Cesar. These are just examples, but giving you some examples of things that people don't consider. And right here is great. So the things that are unique about us, we have a strong partnership community and ecosystem. So we build referral relationships with our partners that work in any industry. The nice part about language is every industry has to use it. So whether it's manufacturing, healthcare, or specialty software, like we localize their content for them. And something that's a bit unique about us, our technology I mentioned, Unify, we can translate into just about any file type people use natively. So we don't have to convert content. We can translate a JSON or an HTML file as easily as we can translate a Word document or an InDesign or a Visio diagram, because of the way we've designed our platform. And it gives people access and control into the whole process. So most people some of you on the call have probably dealt with localization before. It's a black hole. Send the project out and cross your fingers, hope it comes back and that it's good. We automate the translation process in our platform, so you can actually see the human linguist doing the work, and you can pull dashboards up to show you how close they are to completion. If you do any quality review, you'll see automatic dashboards that show quality scores. You can see your cost savings because we don't charge for things like repetitions and translation memory. So we have an interesting pricing structure that also helps to over time reduce translation spend rather than continue to see it increase year over year. So yeah, any industry, the key thing for us is partnering with groups that are really trying to expand globally, and any portion of that value chain is something that we specialize in as a company.
Perfect. Right on time. Thanks, Dave. So the first question coming, what do you do different to other translation companies? Can you offer any example of how that has worked before?
Yeah, I'd love to. It's the best question. So do I have 10 minutes to answer that question? I'm just kidding. So that makes us different is, and this is a highly fragmented industry. So there are a lot of ma and pa shops that, anybody who licenses some translation software can sort of do a job. The problem is that it's hyper. They don't have the level of experience or expertise, and that's a weak reason. But the key thing is the translation technology. So we have highly qualified linguists. We have a very strict review process. Only 1 in 12 of our linguists gets hired to work for us that we screen. These are people that are applying to work with us and that we're recruiting. So we're very stringent there. But many people will say something like that, but our technology is proprietary. So it automates all the things that humans can't do better than a computer, but it leaves the translation itself up to the humans. But it provides the dashboarding and controls. You can submit projects directly in the platform, and it'll give you an actual quote and tell you what your actual project costs and word counts are, and how much translation memory we're applying to the project to save you money automatically. And then you can pull dashboards to see how far along the project you are. You can actually log in and see the linguist translating the project in the platform if you want to do that. We give you complete transparency and ownership of the process. So those are some things that are quite different. Overall, it results in higher quality because we're more transparent and a lot more collaborative process, which results in much more on target in language results. That's why we work with folks like Disney and Lego and Hilton and others, because they've learned to trust the consistent quality that we can produce.
Perfect, thanks. What about artificial intelligence? Is that something you're using right now, or how do you expect that to change things?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that. I forgot to mention one thing about our technology that's crucial, and multimedia is huge in the world today in both learning and development and marketing and everything. And we integrate in with a couple of different platforms that are driven by AI. So IBM Watson is a core part of our platform on the back end with respect to multimedia. So we can actually use that platform to transcribe audio content. So we can extract, if you upload a video into our platform, and this is crazy because in the industry, nobody else can do this, but you can upload a video into our unified platform. It'll actually parse out the audio track. It'll run it through the system. It'll automatically transcribe it, timestamp every word instead of using the rigid timestamps that most people have to use in subtitles and other types of files. And then we can automatically we can then have humans go through and clean up the transcription. We can then translate it in the platform, and then we can even produce machine generated voice, which actually sounds pretty good versus what you're used to hearing from Siri in our platform through IBM's AI driven tools. So, but that drives a lot of our value add in the multimedia space, which is a growing segment. About a third of what we do is in multimedia, so it's a key tool for us. There are other things like neural machine translation that we have access to that's built into our platform. We use that sparingly when there's a good business reason to use it. Turnaround time, cost savings, or the quality of the content doesn't need to be real high. Certain things like that. But yeah, AI is a key part of what we do. And we were one of the first folks to really experiment and drive that into our workflow and have a single tool for multimedia rather than 6 or 7 different tools that everybody else has to use to do the same thing.
Excellent. And where does technology stand when it comes to the meaning of the content? For example, I was helping a member that was creating their website in Spanish. And so I was just screening for them as a Spanish speaker. And even though a lot of the content was well translated in terms of the actual translation of the word, is the right word in Spanish, but it's not the right meaning or the right one for this specific content. Is that something
Yeah.
that's too far away from the technology?
No, y entiendo también muy bien, amigo, porque habla español. But you're 100%
Yeah.
like there are a lot of things. There are a lot of things. If we're talking about context, right? So the word head is like notoriously poorly translated by other companies and other groups, just because you can use the word head or foot to denote organization structure or the top of a doorway or like all these different things. And so, yeah, that's a great question. Inside our translation management platform, Unify, we actually use a glossary automation tool. So when we start working with a client, we're a bit different also, and this is a competitive advantage in that we tend to consult a lot more upfront before we ever start. So we'll help them develop translation style guides that get uploaded into the system, and then every linguist on every project has access to review style points, meaning what kind of tone and style and word choice should I use? What's the reading level of the audience? Like things that are critical to make sure that you have an on-target localization of the content. We also we use glossaries. We'll work with our clients to develop glossaries. So key terms, like you're referring to, Caesar. For example, we work with a major manufacturer of heavy machinery. There are specific things like a boom arm and a swing boom, and like all these terms that really you can translate, but sometimes they translate funny. But they actually, we worked with their global teams, the global distributors. They developed extensive glossaries. We upload those into our platform, and then whenever one of those keywords shows up in a sentence inside the platform, the system is showing the linguist, hey, this is that word, by the way, and this is the proper translation for it. So as they're going, they say, oh, good, there it is. They don't have to guess. It speeds them up, makes them more consistent, and make sure that they're not guessing on key terminology that should be translated.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Just to give you an idea, they have for home, like the website home, they have casa. So yeah, that's a really bad translation. Yeah, I think that's the type of examples of our members and clients that might need your services for sure.
Great. And Caesar, I see a question over on the sidebar. Someone's asking about what if we have many different marketing documents, imagine thousands of products, how does technology help? You mind if I answer that one?
Yeah, no, go ahead. We need to move forward, but just take a couple of seconds. Sure.
Okay, this will be my last one, my swan song question. So that's a crucial question. We actually build one thing that's unique, and because of our translation platform, Unify, we actually have API integrations into a lot of different systems. So to give you an idea, an example of how we can do that, we have one client that they develop an operating system for servers that's now shipped with every HP server around the world. They had to support 85 different languages, and they had to get that translated pretty quickly. They had over 162 file repositories where they had content that needed to be translated. It was a mess. But we integrate with GitHub, Bitbucket, all sorts of Git library, things like that, as well as Sitecore and WordPress and a bunch of other systems. So we actually just hooked up, it took a half hour to get the connector set up with their Bitbucket library. They set up the configuration file, so within that half hour, and then into 85 languages, we translated 82,000 words in 162 different folders, and we turned that all around in about 3 business days. So yeah, it's a good question, but what we can do is set up some automation so the files flow in and out of the system automatically. So on your content management side, you might have a whole bunch of files that need to be translated, and let's say manuals like InDesign files. We actually translate InDesign files natively in the platform. So you can actually set it up so those files get pushed directly into Unify if you put them in a certain folder in your content management system, and then those will come right in for translation. They'll get translated, come right back, and then they'll get put into your system. Now, it depends on the size. That was a machine translation project for that example I gave, but you can have a human linguist translating things, which is a normal workflow, and that all still automatically goes from your system to our system, gets human translated, then back into your system. So yeah, that's not that big of a problem to tackle anymore if you have a translation partner like InWhatLanguage.
Got it. Perfect. So again, thanks a lot, Dave. You can still hang around for the next and last speaker. It's going to be Rick Moore. Rick, are you there? Rick?
Yep, can you hear me?
Yeah, you was muted, sorry. Yeah, we can hear you now. So let me
Great. Good afternoon, and thanks for having me. You want to go ahead and pull up the slides?
Yeah, I'm pulling them right now. Okay, they're all up there. You're good to go.
Yeah. So again, this is Rick Moore. I'm a VP with ROI Research on Investment. We're a company that helps economic development organizations, or EDOs, attract investment. So that means we work for government agencies around the world. And in our 15 years, we've served over 350 government agencies, countries, states, cities, provinces, as well as chambers of commerce, other organizations involved in attracting investment, sometimes also facilitating trade. And in doing that, we sought a way to become more effective for our clients and identify growing companies. Typically, they're hiring us to find companies that meet their criteria in terms of the size and the industry, the job creation, and so on. So they will come to us and they want to attract a number of different things. It could be automotive manufacturing plants, it could be life science R&D, it could be small sales and support offices, whatever they're after. Our job is to find growing companies that would have an interest in talking to them about expanding to their jurisdiction. And it's a process of going through, obviously, a huge database of companies, looking at lots of different sources, and then identifying a target list of companies. So we wanted to find a way to facilitate this and automate as much as possible. And actually, if we could, find a way to predict corporate growth. That is, to determine which companies are actually more likely to be expanding somewhere, creating a new office or plant somewhere else in the world, roughly in a 1 to 2 year time frame, or actually exactly in terms of the platform we developed 18 months from now. So the platform we developed is called Gazelle.ai, Gazelle referring to fast-growing companies. And to create this, we brought together a team of economists, data scientists, software developers, essentially created a team within ROI that eventually became launched as Gazelle.ai earlier this year. What Gazelle does is look at a company and look at its history back 5 years, look at its industry, look at its location, altogether look at over 241 pieces of information, and then assign a score, a scale of 1 to 6. Now, the algorithm actually trained itself by looking at thousands of actual investments. And so the Gazelle score, the G score, is actually based on real investments that were made. And the artificial intelligence allows it to make adjustments as conditions change. If new data comes in about companies, industry, location, and also as it gets feedback on actual investments being made, it can make corrections as needed. So that's essentially what it is. If you want to go on to the next slide, I'll expand a bit further. So I mentioned the G score, which I showed you on the first page. The companies it's looking at now number over 7 million. You can also do research on over 900 industries, and I'll tell you a bit more about that on my next slide. And then here it shows an example of a heat map. So in the 5 slides, I tried to integrate as many screenshots as I could. The best way to appreciate it really is to actually have a look at the platform. And this screenshot is using one of 12 different economic indicators to display graphically where companies are located. And that could be based on the number of establishments, could be based on the revenue growth, could be based on say average salary growth, which we found to be one of the best indicators of corporate growth. So when trying to research an industry, you can easily identify the states, in this case, or in the counties, where you're more likely to find interesting companies. Next slide. And here the screenshots show a list of companies with a sample profile. I'm not sure if you can read that very well. You can also go to the website and you can see more screenshots, read more about it. It's simply Gazelle.ai, of course. It's offered as software as a service, and the standard subscription is $20,000 for 3 users per year. We have different prices based on the size of the user, starting at about $9,000, say, for community of 100,000 or less. Now the next slide talks about the types of clients that we have, and to date, so we've been selling this for about a year. We've pretty much been selling this to our EDO clients. So it says, governments, chambers, utilities. We have, for example, state governments like Georgia, Michigan, Maryland, New Mexico, Wyoming using it. Cities like Portland, Columbus, Oklahoma City, Austin, Zurich, Orlando. Service providers like Bloomberg actually is a client of ours. They're a Gazelle user. The University of Southern Mississippi has just subscribed on behalf of their students. They have a program in economic development that's actually being used to educate students and to train them in doing corporate and industry research. And then increasing out the service providers. I would imagine that any company, that includes companies, of course, in foreign exchange or language translation, will be looking to identify companies that are on choose the companies that meet your criteria and are likely to have the expansion project moving to some other market in about 18 months. And then the final slide here, I think the next one's the final slide here. I think I have my contact information and just a screenshot there of the main landing page of Gazelle, where you see there are half dozen ways in, basically, looking for companies, looking for industries. We have a number of featured lists like your Fortune, Forbes, and Deloitte, et cetera, in there. You can save your information in your folders, moving around clockwise. We have a special section on VC-funded companies, thanks to our partnership with Crunchbase. And then finally, we actually have a list of about 200 projects. So there's companies right now that are looking for a location for their investment. So I don't know if I kept that within the 5 minutes. I did my best to get through it quickly. Any questions?
Yeah, thank you very much, Rick. Yes, we have questions, and actually the first one coming is from Mike from AFEX, which was the first one speaking. He's asking, can you easily find competitors of target companies? For example, have a company that you're looking at purchasing and then see what their competitors look like. So yes, you do have, so for company profile, it will have a list of their competitors. So you can easily find that in the company profile page. You could also, and one of the screenshots there actually showed a value chain analysis. On a higher level, you can look at a given industry and then also identify related industries, especially buyers and suppliers from a given sector. Okay, good, thanks. Then another question is like, it seems like economic development agencies are the best targets. What's the next type of companies that can benefit of Gazelle?
Well, so we're just now starting to reach out, and in fact, my reaching out here to the global chambers, one of our initial efforts into identifying other companies, we think service providers in global trade and investment are the next market for us. So right now we have over 100 clients, or almost all economic development organizations. I mentioned though that Bloomberg and University of Southern Mississippi are our clients. There might be a handful of others that are outside the typical EDO market. But I would imagine that firms involved generally in foreign trade and investment, and that could be finance, law, accounting, import, export, language translation, etc. There's also consultants to focus on, say, international sales and marketing. There are, I'm sure, many different sectors that would be relevant, and I actually would appreciate any input or advice as to the types of firms that would most likely. And again, the key advantage to using this is that it will tell you which companies are likely to be expanding in roughly the next 1 to 2 years.
That's great. And I know it's too early, but is there any success story that you can share with us?
As far as those using Gazelle?
Yep. Specifically for
feedback from our clients. I must say I can't name a specific one so far. As far as they're being able to actually land an investment. Typically, we're talking about a 2 or 3 year process from the time a prospect is engaged and the time a decision is made. So for us, a success really is where one of our users, one of our clients has used it to actually land a project, to get a company to invest there. So while many certainly have found, have gotten, calls or meetings as a result and have engaged with prospective investors, I doubt that any have actually landed an investment this early on. Again, we launched this officially in September of last year.
I see. And that's why I said it was probably too early.
Yeah, most just signed on like in the past 6 to 9 months.
Sure. Okay, and then another question is, are there ways to gauge their global growth rate versus domestic? So a way to compare when you have a company and compare domestic and global rate?
Yeah, that's a tough one because it's hard to get information on the company's international business. So what we're doing with the Gazelle store is determining a company's likelihood to be expanding somewhere, and we just don't have enough information to say where that might be. I'd love to be able to say that, hey, Intel's most likely to make their next investment in Central America. We can't tell you that. We can tell you if they're likely to make an investment somewhere in the world in about 18 months. But when we do have some good information, especially on U.S. companies on what they're doing in the domestic market, but it's unfortunately there's just not enough information out there to be able to accurately assess or predict international growth specifically.
Okay, and the last question I got here is, what's the cost of the subscription to Gazelle?
Yeah, so the standard cost is $20,000 per user. I'm sorry, $20,000 per year, and that allows up to 3 users or 3 logins. For larger organizations, for say 25,000, you can have up to 7 users, and beyond that, it's really negotiable. And then we have a few tiers below that for smaller communities. I think I mentioned that the smallest level, like for a community of say less than 100,000 people, subscription would be $9,000 per year for 1 user.
Okay, excellent, perfect. So I don't see any other questions coming, and if any of you have a question, feel free to jump in. I'm gonna share anyway all the questions we had to each of the speakers, in case they want to provide more information. And well, I think that will be all for today. I just want to announce about the event we have next week. I think it's on Wednesday, about global fraud. I think it's an important topic that applies to everyone doing global business. So we're going to have, from the banking perspective, we're going to have someone from the SBA speaking about how small and medium companies can avoid fraud. So feel free to join as a member and watch the event. Wednesday at 11 Eastern Time and 8 Pacific Time. Okay, so thanks everyone. Have a good rest of the day.
Thank you, everyone.